Now, after we've learned our musical motifs, I'd like you to think of the rest of Addams Family being broken down into 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2, and the ending. We're going to start learning Part 1 now. Now, regardless of which of these sections we're learning, Part 1, Part 2, or the ending, a new concept that we're going to be encountering is something called walking fingers or playing finger by finger. I call it walking fingers because sometimes our fingers move as though they are walking. Imagine that you're walking down the street 1 foot at a time. When we walk, while we're stepping with 1 foot, the next foot is getting ready to step. So one is always actually on the ground and the next is preparing for a step. Our fingers are going to be moving very much the same way. Sometimes we'll have 1 finger down as opposed to all of them, and the next finger is going to be moving to get ready. Once that next finger moves to get ready and is placed, that first finger is going to be moving to get ready for the next note. Let me show you in Part 1. In Part 1, we're going to be starting in the middle of our bow, getting ready to go up bow. On each of these notes, whether it's a long or a quick, with this galloping rhythm, I'd like you to think of in general staying in about the middle of the bow, using 1 to 2 sections of bow. Starting in the middle, we're going to be going up bow on our open A. Here we go. A. Then I'm going to ask you to place just your 3rd finger on the A string to play our D. We're placing just our 3rd finger because in just a moment we're going to need to cross strings. And right now placing 1 finger is going to allow us to cross strings and come back to this string more quickly. So we're going to play the D with the 3rd finger. Now I'd like you to keep that 3rd finger on the A string while 1st finger comes to touch the F sharp on the E string. We'll play the F sharp. Now pop that 1st finger off. We're going to go back to the 3rd finger on the A string. D. Then pop that 3rd finger off. We're going to place our 1st finger on the A to play the B. Keeping your 1st finger there until the next finger gets there. I'd like you to place that 3rd finger on the D string, which is the G. G. Now our next note is going to be our 4th finger on the A string, which is our E. But remember, we've already talked about how 4th finger is a little shorty pants and he needs some help from the other fingers. So keeping that 3rd finger on the D string, reach that 4th finger up to the A string, bringing your elbow around to play the E on the A string. Let's show you that again. A, D with just the 3rd finger, D. Keep the 3rd finger down while 1st finger touches the F sharp to play F sharp. F sharp, back to the D, which is already down because we've held it down. D, crawl that 1st finger to the B on the A string, B. Then just the 3rd finger comes to the D string to play our G, G. Keep that 3rd finger down while we reach the 4th finger up to the E, which is on the A string. 2 more times, starting on the A. A, D, 3rd finger stays there while 1st finger crosses to the F sharp. 1st finger comes back to the B and stays there while 3rd finger goes to the 3rd finger tape on the D string, which is called our G. Keep that 3rd finger there while we reach 4th finger to the A string. Here's Part 1 one more time. A, D, F sharp, D, B, G, E with a 4th finger. Now, a pro tip as you're working on this first part is to remember that your fingers are walking. If we were walking down the road, we wouldn't take a step and say, left foot, come along. Right foot, come along. Left foot, your turn. Right? The next foot is always getting ready to step while the other foot is actually on the ground. So as you're learning and getting used to these notes, remember to keep your next finger moving and preparing to play. What that will look like is this. If you notice, the only times I kept a finger down were the 3rd finger at the beginning and the 3rd finger that came before we played the 4th finger. Otherwise, my fingers were constantly moving to prepare for the next note. Practice this first part 5 times every day, getting used to each note where our fingers need to go, getting used to using pinky and bringing your elbow around, and getting used to preparing and walking your fingers over to the right spots. Practice this slowly and trust that every day as you're taking it slowly, you'll get more and more comfortable with it and be able to speed it up in no time.